Welcome back, everyone. Hope everyone's having a good time. Welcome back. My name is Anthony. I'm an artist based in Wilmington, Delaware. I go to school at an atelier known as Studio Incaminati in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Welcome back to our weekly demonstrations. We're going to go over some fundamentals. We're going to improve upon this gesture from a while ago. As you know, we start off every drawing with a flow, a gesture. What is the figure doing? What's the flow that we find in this gesture? What I'm seeing that head up in here, that torso leaning in, coming back out. Right. I know that the hips tilt this way. The shoulders are probably going to be straighter than what I have them. Maybe even tilt this way a little bit. And I know that looks counterintuitive, but the reason this slants in the opposite direction I have it is because this shoulder pops up when that hand is placed on the waist. That's just a natural movement of the body. The shoulders are typically detached from the movement of the torso. I mean, they're attached, obviously, but the arms move independent of the torso. I'm gonna put this in here. This leg kind of comes out this way, right? Place that back of the rib cage a little bit better. So this leg comes, there's this shadow shape in here that kind of lines up with the bend of the torso. I'm gonna put that in. This foot comes in, or that shin comes in. This front of the thigh lines up right about where the chin is. About here. And that arm tucks behind. Let's go ahead and place that head. So that head, that's going to line up right about where the ankle is. Right. This side of the face is going to line up right about where that tilt is here in the hips. Place that chin right about here. Just place that. Alright, so what else am I seeing in here? I'm seeing this shadow shape right in there. I'm seeing that the chin lines up right where that arm comes out. This is longer than what's shown in here. How are we going to shorten that up? Just going to wipe it out. Just going to wipe it out with our towel, our paper towel. Now this line in here, this shadow shape, lines up right about here. But I know that it's kind of covering that bend in the waist there. Maybe this comes up a little bit more than when I have it. Pop that up a little bit. And the breasts come out this way. Right. That sternum comes out this way. That's going to be our center line. that we're looking for. That center line is going to tell us a lot about this pose. And what do I mean by that? So that center line, if we put that in, we can get a better gauge of the width and proportions of our gesture. As we see in here, there's a nice little dark space in that sternum. That's where the center line hits. We can tell that this side is just a tad bit wider than this side. And the arm comes up right about here. This little line in here, that's where the pec goes underneath the arm and connects to the humerus. I'm not going to place that in there just yet though. I'm going to get the proportions a little bit more accurate before I do that, before I go too deep into little nuances. I'm just going to make sure that my figure is accurate, my abstraction is accurate, excuse me. I can place the shadow in here. Probably bring this up just a little bit. Place the shadow in here. And straighten that out just a tiny bit. It's good to take a step back. And when we take a step back, we're looking at our drawing holistically. We're looking at the bigger picture here and comparing the model to our drawing. Taking a step back allows you to look at both of them and compare and see what needs adjustment, what is correct about your drawing. Helps you spot landmarks that you can rely on in your drawing. So I can tell the shadow comes down a little bit too much. I'm just gonna push it up a little bit. I'm gonna bring this shadow down just a little bit. Place this line in here. That's gonna a little bit. I don't need that in there. So this line where the thigh comes in, that lines up right about where the bend of the hips are, where that tilt ends. So something about this pose that I don't want to translate into this one is this leg in here. This little portion makes it look like this leg is placed higher than this one, which is wrong. This is my weight-bearing leg. So naturally that's going to push the hips up. And it's going to make this leg, or this hip stand higher than this hip. This is what I'm looking at right here. That tilt of the hips. This leg is going to be pushed up because of all that weight that's landing on this foot. That's going to push this leg down. I'm just going to place the same anatomical structure, but a little bit lower than what I have it here. I'm going to wipe that out to make it clearer. And bring this thigh back a little bit just to thicken it up. The reason why I brought it out this way is because I pushed it down from the top. You know what that means? That probably means that this needs to go a little higher as well. So I'm gonna wipe this out, make that abdomen look a little bit clearer, make that leg look a little clearer. Maybe I pushed it up a little too much, so I'm gonna push it back down from the top. Reestablish the shadow shape in here. I know I'm referencing an old drawing right now, but there are still parts of this drawing that are incorrect that I don't want to translate to this one. And I already see myself translating this drawing accurately to this one based off the drawing and not what I know. One of those things here, I believe the shoulder is out too far. In this drawing, it's definitely out too far. You see how far that is right in there versus here. Part of that is because the neck is in shadow and her hair kind of comes down and is also the same tone, so it looks like it's a little too far, but even still, it's a little too far out. So I'm gonna push that arm in a little bit. I know her neck, well, the side of her face lines up right about here. So I'm gonna place this in here, keep that tilt of the face. I'm gonna keep this in here too, but I'm gonna bring her neck out because I know her neck is thicker than when I had it. That looks more structurally sound already than this one. And it turns her torso a little bit as well, which is good. That's good. That's the perspective that we want. So this line in here matches up with the shadow shape that's in here. And remember, I'm just placing shapes down. These shapes are going to be representative of the bigger picture. It'll also help you adjust as your drawing develops. I'm going to place this a little bit thicker in here. And this is the light mass that's at the top of the arm. Remember, just shapes. We're just putting down shapes that represent the idea of what we're looking at. I don't think it's that thick. I don't think her glute was that far out. So I'm gonna bring it back in just a little bit. And you know what? I could probably push this a little bit further in, get a more accurate read on the thigh. Push this in. This is right around where her knee hits. I remember the knees being pretty close to each other in height. And the reason being is because this knee bends. This leg may be a little bit lower than the weight-bearing leg, but this bends out, so it kind of pushes the knee up a little bit and matches with this one here. And place that foot a little bit more accurately. Same with this one. And it comes out just a little bit more. I'm taking a step back, I'm looking at my drawing, seeing what needs to be adjusted. So I'm seeing this optical right shoulder needs to come back out a little bit. This needs to be pushed out. That whole pec in there. Bring this here, this line, this edge of the shadow lines up with the acromion. So I'm gonna push that. Right? That's my acromion in there. I'm gonna leave this shadow shape in here just as is. I'm not thinking about how the shadow is placed around the breast there. Not yet, at least. I'm just thinking about the general shape and size of that shadow and of that breast. The light masses also help me with proportion. help me gauge proportion. The edge of the abdomen lines up right around where the edge of the neck is. So I can probably bring this in just a little bit. I'll push it back out. This line comes in. Now, I don't believe her belly was that protruded, so I'm going to thin this out a little bit. I was struggling this day, I'm not gonna lie. I was not having a good time, but it's part of the process. I posted a video last Thursday giving the example of thinking of a gold miner whenever you're pursuing really anything in your career, but especially in art. You're gonna have to sort through a lot of mud and shit before you find nuggets of gold. And that's the phrase I come back to whenever I know that I'm struggling in a drawing. Sometimes your drawing is just gonna end up shit. It's just gonna look like crap. And that is okay. That is okay. You're just sorting through the mud. You're just sorting through the mud before you find your nugget of gold. And if you realize you have a certain tendency in your drawing process, something you rely on too much that's not beneficial, that's your fool's gold. And the more you attempt to find the gold, the better you get at finding the fool's gold and tossing it out. Because a fool's gold is always going to be there. It's always going to try to lead you astray. Your tendencies are always going to try to lead you astray. But the more easel time you put in, the better you get at noticing your tendencies, tossing them out, and substituting them for a step in the process that pushes the drawing in the direction you want it to go. Noticing this arm kind of comes out a little bit. She's probably a little bit wider in the torso than what I have it. So I'm going to bring this out a little bit. And that pit of the neck is going to be right about here. And that leads me to the sternum, which again, that's our center line. And we're using that center line to to gauge proportion. Push this in. Now this little shape in here that I created by wiping away this light, this little shape is just as informed as this little light mass in here. This light mass tells me that there's a rounding of the breast, but this shape in here, that's the edge of the pectoralis going underneath the arm into the humerus. That's just as important as wiping out the light. I'm going to push this shoulder in a little bit. Push that pectoralis a little bit out. I know that the breast sits a little higher than when I have it. Drawing is just a series of corrections. You're catching what's not making sense, and you're making it make sense. You're correcting it. I know that this calf kind of comes in. It's a good idea to jump around a little bit, especially in the early stages, because once again, we're looking at this holistically. We're looking at the entirety of the figure. The only way we're going to get an accurate drawing out of this is if you look at the whole, the bigger picture, the whole thing. We have a pretty good abstraction right now. Now I'm gonna push this shadow shape in. I remember looking at this here. That little indent is where the costal arch hits. And it goes underneath. here, where it kind of separates from the gluteus maximus. That one there is where the sartorius hits. And there's this light mass in here where the abductor mass of the thigh is. I'll bring that up just a little bit. And remember the glute when it comes in. Right. So this part of the body in here is well informed because I know based on anatomy that the glute comes down and wraps underneath. I know that this is the gluteus maximus in here, and this light mass in here is representative of the gluteus medius, as well as the tensor to the fascia lata, which is the tensor to the IT band. It's the same thing. The IT band runs along from the end of the fascia lata, or the tensor to the fascia lata, all the way down to the side of the knee. And on the other side of the knee is where the sartorius wraps around. That leg looks pretty firmly planted. That foot, you probably feel the same way. Bring that out. He's a little big. I usually, whenever I'm wiping out these feet, I try to think of it in planes. There's this like tube that comes down from the front of the shin, and then your toes create this like flat plane that juts out from that tube and comes out at this angle that wraps around, and then there's this other shape in here that comes out from the side of the foot. It's a wonky little thing, and I'm still learning to capture that in an accurate way. The foot is a little, it's okay. I'm trying to hold my brush as well as far back as possible because that's going to give me more control. Remember this foot having light right there. And it's a little bit flatter on the bottom. We can try to get this head a little bit more accurate as well. It's looking a little big. Shoulder up a little bit. We'll put this shape in here, that shadow shape. Representative. This is representative of the face, the shadow along the side of the face. This shape in here is representative of the hair. Probably bring it up just a little bit. Bring it down. It looks a bit more accurate. It still looks a little big. It still looks big. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push it a little bit further in. Right. That looks better. When we're drawing out the lights, we're remembering our anatomy. We're thinking about how that anatomy affects the form in the light. The more I do these demos, the quicker it seems to go for me. Bring this up just a little bit. Shoulder there. So I'm noticing that this line, when it comes up bottom of that arm, sort of lines up with the shadow shape in here. And as I'm thinking about this light, as I'm looking at this, I know that the sartorius wraps from the top of the aces on the other side of this torso, or the other side of this pelvis, comes all the way down and wraps around the side of the neck. Same thing over here. It's going to attach somewhere up here at the top of the aces and wrap around. And it'll turn in space. I know that the abdomen is going to jut out just a little bit. I know that the oblique is going to come from the side of the torso. It's going to jut out around here over the pelvis. I know that this muscle in here, that's the lat muscle. This shadow shape in here, that's the lat, the side of the torso going up underneath and behind the arm, all the way to the back. I know that this shape in here, that's the pectoralis wrapping underneath the arm. The shadow shape in here is at the bottom of the bicep. We use these large abstractions, these large abstract shapes to describe the form and to get accurate proportions of our drawing. The more accurate the abstraction is, the sturdier the drawing. Okay, so I'm stepping back, looking at my drawing, trying to find different areas where it could be more accurate. Still think that head is just a little too big. I'll bring this head in just a little bit. I'm gonna bring this shoulder, or excuse me, yeah, shoulder up a little bit, give it more of a gesture in there. That looks a little low, so I'm gonna bring it, I'm gonna reestablish the gesture of that shoulder. I'm gonna push it up just a little bit. I'm going to pull out where the fist comes in and rests on the torso on the side. I'm just leaving that as one light mass. I'm not indicating where that fist hits. I would much rather do that when I'm painting in the light. But for now, it's just one light mass that I'm putting together. I'm unifying. Getting an accurate read on where those shadow shapes hit, where the light shapes hit as well. That shadow comes around here. It rounds around the breast there, making sure that my angle is right. Yep, yep, yep. I always tear up my paper towels. Always tear them up. I'm gonna place this light, and I'm gonna try to establish it a little bit more firmly. I know this shape was in here. The light was kind of hitting from the front. I remember there being just ever so slightly a dark light in here, right underneath the knee. And this whole calf and shin area of that leg, that was all in shadow. This was all in the shadow back here. I could potentially just bring that a little lower. Now, why is this area in shadow and these are not? The reason being is because this is where the great trochanter hits. That's where the great trochanter connects to the pelvis. And what that does is it pulls back on the skin, causes a valley in the skin, and that front plane of the thigh is getting hit by light. And when that trochanter pulls and creates the valley of the skin, everything within that valley is away from the light, creating the shadow. And the side of the plane of the skin that hits the light is going to show again. Now that great trochanter is going to pull, it's going to create that valley, removing the light from this area, and that far side is going to catch the light again. It's pretty nice. It's pretty good. Next week I'm going to start going back into painting in the light. I'll probably do it with this one. I think that would be a good idea. Just come back to this specific drawing and paint in the light. Thank you for joining. If you stuck around, I appreciate you. I thank you. I love you. Have a great day.